If this were Compton, we would be rolling in my 6 full. Let's get started.
Really? Compton?
Yes, well, no, we're not in Compton. It's a 164. Sorry about that, guys. It's not rolling in my 6.4. It's 164L. This is a really cool car. This guy owns the blue Maserati you guys have seen in the shop, the coupe. He also owned a V12 Jag, a few other really cool cars that have been in and out of the shop. This one it's a project car, but it's not like barn find project car. It just needs some things fixed up and gone through and get it back. Everything in very good working order. It's a really sweet car. So if you're rich from Rich Rebuilds, this is an Alfa Romeo 164. We corrected him at Concours d'Elegance. It was like, Rich, it's not a Romero, it's a Romeo. Alfa Romeo. Me and Alex and Sam got around him, kind of stood around him and said, say it with us. Alfa Romeo, not Romero. Then he finally got it and he was cool with it. 1991 Alfa Romeo 164L. This car is in really good shape. A lot of these I've seen are pretty poor. This one's not poor at all. It does have a lot of things that need to get fixed. Let's take a look around it. Look at that beautiful front end, guys. There's nothing you can buy today, and not really much cars you can buy in the past that have this iconic Alfa Romeo front end. It really looks good. You can see that in your rearview mirror and you don't say, oh look, it's a Hyundai. No, you start wondering, what is that? That looks odd. And that's the point. They designed it that way. It's not to look like other cars. Now going down the side, Mrs. Wizard thinks that this looks like a late 80s, early 90s Mercedes 190E. Those little baby Mercedes. Because of the cladding along the bottom and the way the wheels are. I can see that. It resembles a Mercedes in a way. But very good shape. We come around to the rear section of the car. You can see it's a 164L. It also looks very iconic.
What? It's from Roswell.
And it came from Roswell, New Mexico. Just like this picture. It's a conspiracy, guys. The Pentagon is now going to start talking about UFOs and acknowledging UFOs. And I bet this car has seen one. You never know. You never know. Okay, let's keep on looking around. No damage in the back. It's not been crunched or beat up. This side again looks like a Mercedes, but it is not. And it says designed by Pininfarina. Same people that design Ferrari bodies, Maserati bodies, and even Cadillac Alantes.
Hey, I had one of those.
Yep. So, as you can see, it's in really pretty good shape on the exterior.
Hey ladies, gents, we are in the interior. And look at that. This thing has 101,000 miles on it. So no, it's not been a garage princess all of her life, but she's got a few miles on her, but she's looking in great shape. Look at the dash. You can tell that this car has lived in the garage for a lot of its time because there's not a lot of damage up there. The sun has not gone in, cracked up that dash at all. Have the lovely symbol on the middle of our very iconic intro with airbag steering wheels. Great addition from the 90s. And look at all those buttons. Last time I saw that many buttons on a console was in my Alante.
It's very 90s.
Very 90s. Look at all those. And it has a very classic cassette player. It is a 5-speed stick, so this would make this car really fun to drive. It does have leather seating, and it's in really pretty good shape. Now, even though the floor mat there says Porsche, no, it's not. It's just got some nice, character added to it. Door panels over there by the Car Wizard are looking good. And again, we go to the headliner. Oh, look, more buttons. And again, nice sunroof. And everything is in really good shape back there. Back seat, look at that. You can actually sit back there. There's actually, the seat is not touching the back of the passenger seat. And again, it's looking really good.
Thinking about the Porsche floor mats, you know, if you have an Alfa Romeo that's really nice like this one, you don't want to get the floor dirty, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Just use Porsche floor mats, just throw them in there. Nobody cares about those anyway. And I fully agree. It perfectly works to collect all the dirt and doesn't get on the Alfa Romeo carpet, it stays on the Porsche carpet.
So let's go look at the engine bay.
Yep, let's do it. Go ahead and get this hood opened up. Look at that, guys. It's a work of art. It is a 3-liter, 24-valve, double overhead cam, V6. They really went far to make this look really good. It's not just an appliance like a toaster that does a job. They made it actually look really cool, and they sound amazing. These have 230 horsepower and roughly 210 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 in around 8 seconds. It's like 7.7 or 7.8. And the quarter mile in 16 seconds. No, it's not a barn burner. It's not super fast. But as the owner of this car has told me, these cars are so fun to drive. They're a thrill. Not so much for the speed that they can attain, but just the enjoyment of driving it. It's really nice. Here's our distributor that's ran right off the cam. All 6 plug wires are there. Here's our timing belt underneath this cover that runs between the 2 cylinder heads. This one wouldn't be too bad to do. If you had to do valve cover gaskets, you would have to take this whole intake plenum off and the runners and everything. It would be kind of a pain. It does have the old vane style mass airflow sensor. There's a mechanical vane that moves inside of it with vacuum or air movement. That's kind of old technology, but it works. There's our cruise control servo. As you can see down there, our clutch slave cylinder, you can see it's all crusty and wet. It's because it is bad. It's no good. So we cannot drive this car. It will start and run, but it will not drive because the clutch does not work because of what you just saw. That's one of the things we got to fix. Let's go ahead and get this thing on a lift and see what else we need to fix. One of the hallmarks of this channel, Car Wizard, is that unlike other YouTube channels, we just walk around a car or show you the top side. On our channel, you get to see the bottom of the car. How many of these Alfa Romeos have you actually seen, number one? And number two, how many of them have you seen the bottom of the car? Let's take a look. Here's our radiator, which is way up front. Kind of strange. You don't usually see them right next to the bumper. But it is like right behind the bumper. So if you got in an accident in this thing, sayonara radiator, it's a goner. There's our analog brake module. There's our fan. Make sure it's, you'd be surprised some of these I've go to spin the blades and it's locked up. That one's good. Here's our big 3-liter V6. And our manual transmission. There's a little bit of seepage coming from that plug right there. And there may be oil, I can see the oil pan gasket here has been leaking pretty good. That'll have to be addressed. Looks like a little bit of a seepage there. Might be coming from the threads from that dipstick tube. Go ahead and check the wheels. Brakes are good. Oh gosh, guys. What is that? That's the inner tie rod end. So where this boot is right here is the inner tie rod end. You hear people talk about inner and outer tie rod. What we're seeing here is the loose play is right there on the inner tie rod end. So it's going to definitely need that replaced. Here's all of our belts. That's our power steering pump. I've read in the comments, like, Wizard doesn't put much effort into checking and shaking things. I've been doing this long enough, I don't have to. I don't need to get a 12-foot pry bar on everything and yank the crap out of it. That's not what we do on these. You can see I didn't have hardly any effort. And I found that that's loose. The ball joint is good. The sway bar link is good. The CV shaft, boots, and the shaft are good. Looks like our oil filter adapter is leaking. So you can see the oil filter adapter itself is leaking. There's an oil cooler there. And we'll go over to this other wheel. Brakes look good. This side's fine, no play there. CV shaft boot is good, the CV shaft is good. Actually, both boots are good. Sway bar link is good. Looks like it's had new struts put on up front. Sachs Super Touring. So we shouldn't have to mess with those. Here's our exhaust coming back to a catalytic converter, which is probably working fine. These are the years where there's no rear monitor or catalyst monitor, no O2 sensor, so if it goes bad, you don't know until it's plugged up. Here's a little resonator type muffler, or resonator I should say. You can see when you go to lift this car, it just has little pegs. There's one here, there's one up there. These are things to pay attention to with these cars that you've not seen a whole lot of. Just like the story I told you guys several videos back about my mentor when he worked in the dealership decades ago. There was a guy that was near the end of his retirement and he just didn't give you know what anymore. He just didn't care. And when he would go to lift a car, he would literally with his feet, he would kick the arms under the car and start lifting. Where are the arms going to contact the body? Or he didn't care. He just started lifting. You can't be that way. You got to make sure this car will not be raised by the pinch weld. It would probably crush it. You have to use these little pegs. We'll move our way on back. Those brake pads are good. Nothing loose there. Everything looks good there. That's a fairly new strut as well. So the sway bar doesn't have a link. The sway bar is directly bolted to this trailing arm, or a control arm. I guess it would be a trailing arm. Check this side, pads are good. Nothing loose there. Everything looks good there as well. Here's a little valve that's like a modulator for the rear brakes, so the rear wheels don't lock up in a severe braking event. There's actually little linkages that go to these two control arms here. That if the rear of the car raises way high, it will stop the fluid flow to these brakes so it doesn't lock them up. Pretty ingenious. They work good. Here's our muffler made by CISAM. Chisholm? I don't know what that means. I don't know how you say that.
This must be from Roswell because there's no rust.
Yes, we didn't find any rust anywhere. It's really a nice car. It's going to be worth fixing up. It does have some leaks, and we saw the loose tie rod in, and several other things here and there, but it's not going to need millions of dollars of work. It just needs some fine tuning, some TLC, and this thing will be a really sweet car. Let's get this thing back down on the ground. I really like the way this car looks, Mrs. Wizard. I think it's cute.
It's very 90s.
I really, really like it. You guys have seen a gold-colored TR8, a dark blue 993, and also the Lotus S4S, and also the Datsun 260Z that we got back on the road that was back there in the corner. All owned by my buddy Bill. You guys have seen him in a few videos. He used to have a red one of these that was the Q. I guess it was a turbo. I'm not sure all the specifics, but here's a picture of it. And when I looked at that car, I was like, that is really cool. I'm not really in the market for buying a car right now, but if I was, I probably would look for one of these. I don't know what it is about the styling. It just captures me. Just really, really cool car. And I know you guys are going to say, oh, the reliability, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't buy this car for a liability. I would buy it because the styling, it is really, really cool.
So what's the ballpark to get this one fixed?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to find out. It could be 2 or 3 grand. It could be 5, 6, 7, 8 grand. I'll just have to see. Depends on when we get things apart and start looking what we find. And that's really the trouble that you run into, is that a person budgets 5 grand to get a car back on the road. You start working on it and you open things up and you're like, oh my goodness, it's gonna need this and this and this. We're at 10 grand already. And then the customer gets angry and says, that's not what we talked about. We talked about $5,000. I don't appreciate this. That's really why I don't get into doing this a whole lot. But there are a few people that I will. If you're curious what kind of tools we use to work on these types of cars, or any of the cars that are in the shop, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. All the tools I use in the shop are listed for sale there. We get a small cut. And make sure you hit the subscribe button. There's going to be a lot of cool videos coming your way and more 308 footage. Thanks for watching.